We've invested $5,000 into the iSpeedtoLeads to this point. Predictable income in the pipeline, $64,000. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're at. You can be successful.
We are live, guys. I'm a little bit nervous and I'm so excited to have Dan today, who is the eXp Realty agent who closed over 50 deals this year with his team, who is in Virginia. But the coolest thing about Dan, and that's why I'm a little bit nervous, Dan is actually helping a lot of businesses and a lot of people to close more deals. He's writing his book. I think it's already ready.
That's been done.
Live in March. It has a specific cool insights how each of you can close more deals in real estate, either you are agent or investor. Dan will tell way more cool things about it. Dan, thanks for joining me today. How's it going?
Good morning. Hello. Welcome.
Awesome. So do you mind sharing a little bit more? How did your path in real estate started? If you started with real estate and how we got to the point where you're publishing your book, helping hundreds of people to close more deals. We're also excited to have you tomorrow on Friday. We're also excited to have you on Friday on our iSpeed Arena versus Ashley. And we're going to talk about this a little bit too.
Ashley, I am rooting for you.
No, this is exciting.
All right. So a little bit about me. I have been a real estate agent since 2007. I have been an investor since before 2000. As an investor, I got started in doing some fix and flips, some wholesales, pretty much, so I was waiting tables at the time. So I didn't consider myself a full-time investor. I'd buy a townhome and live in it, house hack basically, live in it for a couple of years and then rent that out and then, buy the next, etc. I made a lot of money. So I was going through this new stage in my life and I had this desire to help people solve their problems and achieve their goals. And I just didn't know how to do that, working as a waiter, looked at my options. And because I was doing, at this time, maybe not, like I said, I wasn't like an investor, but I would do maybe 1 to 3 deals a year over those 7 or so years as a waiter, just sort of oh, by the way type stuff. One day we're scooping butters into ramekins for the shift. My buddy Bill Cribbin says, "Hey, Rochon, you ever think about being a real estate agent? I know you've been doing, some investments and you know a lot about that." And I said, "Yeah, I had not." But then I, started taking a look at it and said, okay, 60 hours of coursework and, a couple tests and, a couple $1,000 and I got a business. And so that's what encouraged me to become a real estate agent back in the day.
This is an awesome story. So do you mind sharing a bit more about you recovering from your situation that you had, what helped you over the time and why do you think it happened? Because I know there are some people who've been in tough situations who are watching us. Anything encouraging you can share, or maybe tips or things that helped you?
Years ago, I was in my own storm. From the age of 13, alcohol was my escape. So I started drinking really, really early until it became my cage in my early 30s. Every day a dozen beers, 2 bottles of wine. Each morning I would wake up, regret that I had, another promise broken, that this would be my last day that I was going to drink. Then I met my friend Dave. Dave didn't lecture me. He didn't tell me I was lost. He saw me. He saw the real me. He asked me questions. He listened. He taught me how to think for myself so that I can get what I wanted. He really helped me. And so I've been sober now for over 20 years. And because Dave taught me to build trust with myself, ask myself the hard questions, listen deeply to the answers, and he taught me how to choose a different path. Now, Dave, the man who showed me the way out, unfortunately, he didn't find it out for himself. And he died at a very young age. He was 45 from the same addiction. What I learned from that is that you can you can influence another's path. You can light their way, but you have to walk it yourself, right? So, another person can help open the door, but you have to go through. So Dave, he gave me the gift he couldn't keep for himself, and he helped me to close that gap. The hardest truth that I learned was that sometimes the gap that you need to close is with yourself. It's not with somebody else. That was a little bit of my journey. And then, having the unfortunate experience of Dave passing away when I was gaining my sobriety, it caused me, I got 3, they call them big books or AA books. They're in my library right behind me, my bookshelf there. And one of those books belonged to Dave and the other 2 belonged to my young uncles who all passed before me from alcoholism. And so I just realized, listen, I can be some book on somebody's shelf, or I can be able to create and design this life so that I can be able to really pour into other people, pour into myself, achieve my personal dreams and goals and aspirations, and help other people to be able to do the same.
Would you say there should be some maybe particular goal that you put for yourself when you're in the situation? So, like, hey, I need to move towards that. And so you kind of get yourself maybe busier, or maybe occupying your thoughts with some particular goal, or because you talked a lot about like how to get things that I want, or the conversation with myself. Is there some goal should be like in front of you that you try to achieve in order to get out of those situations?
You mentioned my book. The title of the book is called Teach to Sell: Why Top Salespeople Never Sell and What They Do Instead. And in that book, I go through a model that psychologists use called the self-coaching model. I'm going to definitely answer your question, but it's going to be a little bit of a long way here, but I'll get there as quick as possible. So in the self-coaching model, it mentions that your circumstance that you sense through your senses, through your five senses, is the first starting point of your life. And then you have a thought about that. And your thought, if your circumstance is positive, you're going to have a positive thought. If it's negative, you may have a negative thought. And then you're going to have a feeling, and the same type of thing, positive or negative. So you have a circumstance, and then a thought, and then a feeling. And then based off that feeling, then you take an action. All right. So now this can apply to investors. This can apply to real estate agents. It can apply to all human beings. You have a circumstance, and then a thought, and then a feeling, and then an action. And then from that action gets a result. And then that result then serves back into your circumstance. So it's a loop, it's a closed loop. And so if you're visualizing that, you can sort of visualize a clock, and at the 12 o'clock position would be the circumstance. At the 2 o'clock position would be the thought. At the 5 o'clock position would be the feeling. At the 7 o'clock position would be the action. At the 10 o'clock position would be the result. And then that feeds back into the circumstance. And you could just sort of draw arrows in between each of those going in a clockwise position. So to answer your question, Yuri, about setting goals and visualizing. So the way to hack what I just said, that's called the self-coaching model. It's why so many of us stay stuck for so often in getting the same results over and over and over again. So if you're an investor and you've done one flip in the last 3 years, unless you do something different, you're probably going to do one flip in the next 3 years. So how do you use goal setting to be able to hack that self-coaching model, that cycle that holds you back? You can do so through things like visualizations, meditations, affirmations, listening to podcasts like this that you're listening to right now, to be able to pray, to exercise, to create great relationships and maintain great relationships. If it goes back into the goals, at one point in my career, I would sit in a steam room every single day, visualizing closing 10 transactions a month as a real estate broker, not as an investor. As I did that, that became my reality. Now, it's not my reality today because I'm focusing on other things. I'm focusing on coaching and mentorship and writing and really helping in a greater capacity. But I still do a decent amount of business and real estate sales even today. But the visualization, the setting the goals, if you can see it crystal clear, then you could be able to then achieve it. And I go through that step by step in Teach to Sell.
Something happened to me. Let's say I'm upset. I argued with my girlfriend. And after that, I feel upset, right?
Yeah.
I feel upset. I take the action of getting drunk, for example.
Yeah.
And after I'm taking this action, my girlfriend is maybe get upset because I didn't spend time with her, or I just got drunk so bad, and we got into big argument. After that, I'm again in this whole loop. Do you share in your book, or like, is that the thing that you need to really understand and like be, and I know it's easier to say than do all those things, but is there a spot where you need to be like, okay, I feel upset, but why do I feel upset? I shouldn't feel upset. Everything all right? Or am I stopping myself at the point of action? Like, and again, the question, of course, how you do that.
So the first thing is an exercise to bring awareness. All right. So it may not be situational to the argument that you're having with your girlfriend. I'll give you something about that here in a second, but it could avoid or at least bring awareness to your mental state and how you're feeling. Every time you use the bathroom, I know that's a little bit gross to talk about, then you go wash your hands. Wash your hands. When you wash your hands, I want that to be an anchor. Okay. The water comes on your hands. You reach for the soap. And I want that to be a reminder for you to check in. And the 3 questions that I ask when I'm washing my hands, and I go through this in the book, is number 1, what's going on in my world? I guess there's 4 questions. Number 2 is, what am I thinking? Number 3 is, what am I feeling? And then number 4 is, what am I about to do? I'm giving you a very, very specific, do this, And if you do this, when you do this, not only will you make more sales, but you'll have a better life. So if you think about that, why do I say use the restroom? Because there's an automatic alarm clock that you can just put, an alarm clock on your iPhone. That's cool, right? But this is a natural alarm clock that we all have that reminds you, and it's a trigger, right? Hopefully you're washing your hands when that water hits your hands to remind you. So again, the 4 things that you sit there and say, okay, what's going on in my world? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I about to do? All right. So now that brings an awareness so that you're probably less likely to have that argument with your girlfriend. Now, let's say that you're doing that and you still have an argument with your girlfriend, right? Because that's possible. You are in control of your second thought. Your first thought is rather automatic. And by the way, I've already given you a hack on getting better first thoughts, which goes back to the meditation, affirmations, visualizations, reading, and relationships, etc. Right? Like that's how you train yourself to have better first thoughts. But we're all at different levels on that. So let's say you have a bad first thought, like, man, she's annoying. Right? I know that Yuri's girlfriend is a beautiful woman. She's not annoying at all, right? We're just being hypothetical here.
Oh, we just argued, so that's actually a very real case. We just argued, so this is a good thing. So okay. That's a really good case.
All right, so then you get to control your second thought. Okay, so now if I notice a thought, and you're probably going to less notice a thought than you're going to notice a feeling. So most likely is you're going to notice the feeling where you're pissed off, you're frustrated, you're whatever, right? You're angry maybe. And so that's a feeling. You're going to notice that, right? Like you're going to have tension in your body. But what you have to understand is that tension, that anxiety, that frustration, that is a next part of remember you had the thought comes first, the feeling comes second. The feeling is just sort of like a barometer in your body to demonstrate that you're having unhealthy thoughts or healthy thoughts. Okay, because the body keeps the score. All right, so there's a famous book that's why I said it that way, right? So for those of you who want to get wonky on this, after you get Teach to Sell, the body keeps the score. All right, so that's not my book. But see, so now if you're noticing in your body that, it's not feeling good, go back and recognize, what am I thinking? Change your thought and you can change your outcome. And oh, by the way, guess how long that thought resides in your head? 90 seconds. So if you can just erase whatever's going on in your world for 90 seconds and then replace it with a positive thought, then you're going to have a positive feeling. And then when you have a positive feeling, you're going to take a positive action, and then you're going to have a positive result, which is a better, more healthy relationship with your girlfriend. Or you're lead generating with iSpeedtoLead. Somebody says F you. Well, for me, it doesn't trigger anything. But for some of us, that may trigger something. If that happens to you, then you just got to take a break, a 90-second break, go blank in your head or have positive thoughts. And then after 90 seconds, that feeling is gone. And then you could input a new thought. Now you say, but Dan, when I'm upset or I'm scared or whatever, it lasts way more than 90 seconds. Why is that? Because it's not the feeling that lasts more than 9 seconds. It's the thought. See, it's that thought that keeps going into your head again. Like, man, she's a whatever, right? Or she was wrong, or that shouldn't have happened, right? All that stuff that's going on in your head is the reason why the emotion continues to reside. So you simply, again, so a hack to get a different result would be, okay, I'm not feeling good. What am I thinking? Now let me either put those thoughts to the side or recreate those thoughts in real time. And then 90 seconds later, I have a choice to be able to now embrace a healthy, beautiful life.
If somebody tells you guys F you on iSpeedtoLead, just get a refund. So that one should be easy and automatic. And we're going to talk about iSpeedtoLead.
No, when they say F you, say, thank you very much. Refund.
Yeah, that's one. This is the easy one. So, and so guys, we're going to put the description to Dan's book below. So make sure to check it out. I have 2 last quick questions, and we're gonna go into your agents and leads direction. But what made you write the book in the first place?
Yeah, through the years, I've been, in some sort of capacity. I mentioned I started drinking at 13, but I also started working even before 13. And in some sort of capacity, except for 4 years when I was in the military, I've always, for the most part, have always been some sort of, if I work and I do really good in my job, then I make a lot of money. If I work and I don't do good in my job, then I don't make a lot of money. And so whether that's like a waiter or a bartender when I was younger, or a real estate salesperson, or a coach or mentor, or a brokerage owner, whatever the different roles that I've had, I've always had this relationship with myself that I'm the creator of my world. And so now as I create and design my world, then I can be able to basically do anything. And I've spent years and years and years of study and in implementation and in action. So not just like I interviewed way more than 500 successful business owners when I wrote the book to be able to find the commonalities of what makes them successful, plus my own experience. It was something that throughout the years that I really created as a mission for myself, which is I've figured out not only how to make this work, how to have just a predictable income. I didn't mention as a real estate agent. Now think about this. I have had no broke months since 2008. Of all the things that I've done, owning different ventures and joint ventures and brokerages and all the different cool things that I've done, the one that I'm most proud of is what I just mentioned to you. No broke months since 2008 as a real estate broker or a real estate agent. That's my own personal production. So as I realized that I have this story to tell, and as I realized that I'm able to help other people, that's what caused me to want to write the book, because I'm on a mission today to help 1 million salespeople, entrepreneurs, and small business owners, for them to have consistent and predictable income. And I am passionate to be able to do so, which is why we're offering that $10,000 free training. That's actually a community of real estate agents, real estate investors, entrepreneurs, salespeople that become a part of the consistent, predictable income community to be able to help each other, to be able to succeed. And when I realized that I had that mission, that's when I decided to write the book. And there's something in the book that I didn't mention already, but I think it's something that's important, is that there is a hero in the journey of Teach to Sell, and that hero is the reader. There is a villain in the book, and that villain, it's just something we all have. It's that whisper in the back of your head that says, you're not worthy. You're not good enough. Who the hell are you to think you can do this? And that's the villain in the book. And then the guide in the book is actually myself and Teach to Sell. And so that's why I wrote the book. And that's the way I wrote the book, or at least the framework of it. And my mission, again, is to help 1 million people. And that's just a part of the way that I intend to do so.
I would imagine you saw plenty of people, plenty of agents, plenty of investors, how they do things, what they do things. And probably one of the reasons why you wrote the book, you probably saw a lot of people doing something wrong. And that's why you're like, gosh, I'm tired of explaining that so many times. Let me write a freaking book. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not only because of that, but is there some particular thing when we talk about maybe agents or investors or sales overall that you've seen in real estate over and over and over and over, and that people can change by reading your book? Or what this one thing is? Let's say they do a mistake right now, and what the book will be probably telling them do it differently.
Yeah, let me go through that with like a two-part answer. So the one thing that I say is the demon. The one thing that gets in our way is what I just mentioned, and that's that thought, that belief that I'm not worthy. All right, that I'm not good enough. That right there. So you've got to start with the belief. All right. So we go through in the book, it's broken into 4 sections, right? And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So maybe I'll answer you in a linear fashion. So it sort of depends on where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't believe in yourself, guess what? Unless you're really, really lucky and you have some great relationships in your life or a great opportunity in your life, you are going to struggle.
And
all right.
And let's go back and forth on this a little. When you say you don't believe in yourself, would you say in our industry or with agents, is it really because of belief, or is it because they just maybe don't have enough experience in selling, don't maybe have enough confidence in that, or is it really belief?
It is really belief, because experience comes through time. My first listing appointment I went on, do you guess how long I was licensed as an agent?
For a while.
6 days.
Okay.
Do you think in 6 days, and I booked that appointment maybe 3 or 4 days after I got my license, do you think in 3 or 4 days that I felt I had the experience to be able to go on a listing appointment?
No, but here's the thing I'm going to tell you. If you worked as the waiter, you probably had plenty of good experience, talking to people and doing those type of things. I see in real estate, there is plenty of people right now who are not comfortable talking to people, and I think this issue is only getting worse with, this modern generation. So, but okay. So
it goes back, but Yuri, it still goes back to the belief, right? Because I believe that I could, based on, and I had experience. But guess what? Everybody that's listening to this right now, you have experience. One of my students, he worked with the FAA for 20 plus years, and he helped to be able to work with the navigation. He wasn't like a flight controller. I forget the names of it, right? But he worked for the FAA to keep us safe. And he had that conversation. He said, Dan, I have nothing to do with real estate sales. What do I do? I said, well, I won't say his name, but I said to him, let's talk about your experience. What have you done through all these years? You've kept human beings safe. You have been able to focus on technical things that are really important, that are life saving, or and not just life saving, but just convenience of being able to travel. Like I'm in right outside Washington D.C. right now. I can be in San Francisco tonight if I wanted to be. Okay, like, well, how can I do that? Well, I could do that by taking a plane, and this gentleman was helping to be able to keep things safe. So I said, okay, so what is your superpower, right? Your superpower is that you can be able to take technical things, you can be able to piece together those pieces from A to Z and keep Americans and people across the entire world safe. So now you have an experience. So how's that experience rest into, whether if you can make a cold call or not? Well, first of all, they're not cold calls because, they're warm calls because they've expressed interest in doing something. All right. So it's still, Yuri still starts with that belief. Now you just have to apply whatever your experience is. Now I had experience as a waiter, but I could tell you right now, there's plenty of people that have been waiters that won't have the experience to go into real estate sales and say, I'm going to book an appointment, go on the appointment, not know what the hell I'm doing, and do all that in less than 1 week. And I was an expired listing, by the way, right? I hear expired listings eat their young. Okay. So it's, probably one of the toughest. I didn't get the listing, but Brad got the listing. Damn it, Brad. But anyways, that's another conversation. So that's going back to the question that you asked is like, what's the one thing? So the first thing is about belief. And that's the first pillar in the book. The second pillar in the book is about lead generation. So now how do we lead generate? Using companies like iSpeedtoLead, but that's one way to lead generate. And that's sort of a hybrid between prospecting and marketing, because prospecting costs you time and marketing costs you money. There's sometimes when you have to invest money into a great system like iSpeedtoLead. And by the way, we'll talk about this there in a few minutes. I've only been using iSpeedtoLead for like 6 weeks. And I'll tell you what my results have been in 6 weeks here in a few minutes. I'm sure you're going to ask me that. So pillar number 1, build the unstoppable business mindset. Pillar number 2, to be able to use authority attraction to be able to find business. Pillar number 3 is now you want to be able to put some support around you with systems, with people. Okay, so that is building the organization around yourself. And then pillar number 3 is leadership. Or I'm sorry, pillar number 4 is leadership, excuse me. And so I'll say those all. And leadership, my definition of leadership and also my definition of teach to sell is to be able to teach somebody how to think so that they can get what they want. All right, so I'll say those 4. This is the thing right here. Follow these in this order. And, I'll go through the book to expand on that and give you specific, things to do. But number 1 is believe in yourself. After you believe in yourself, now you got to go find business. That's lead generation. After you go find business, now you have to build an organization of support. I'll show you how to hire virtual assistants, etc. And then lastly, how to be able to lead so that you can help other people get what they want. And it's that order of where like people that are struggling right now, they may have a gap somewhere in that framework. It could be in their belief. It could be in their lead generation. It could be they don't have the support and they're working 24/7 and like they're tired. Or it could be I just had a fight with my girlfriend. That goes back into the belief in the techniques that I develop and teach in that portion there.
Let's talk about your real estate journey right now. So you guys are closing deals, you're closing listings. So let's talk about leads. So how do you guys normally got leads before you got iSpeedtoLead? And I would imagine that's still the source. And we're gonna talk about iSpeedtoLead after that.
Well, so I used to always hate when agents say my sphere of influence is like the biggest piece of my business, because particularly if you're newer or particularly if you're an investor, right? Like it's hard to be able to get business from your sphere of influence initially. Okay. Yeah. And so I just, say that with a little asterisk right there. So, but about 1/3 of my business does come from my sphere of influence, right? From past clients.
Yeah.
But I recognize, and it could be even agent referrals, but I recognize that that's unique to me because I've been doing this for a long period of time, right? So I don't want somebody listening to this be like, well, I don't have that, right? Okay, well, great. 2/3 of my business comes from, from marketing and networking and prospecting. Okay, so specifically, we have relationships with a lot of different companies that we pay a referral fee on the back end. Okay. And so is it okay if I mention a couple of those companies?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. For example, like Ojo, OpCity, UpNest, Clever, Agent Machine. These are types of referral resources where we get the leads and then we pay a referral fee at the back end of that. Mm-hmm. So that's about 1/3 of my business. And then about 1/3 of my business has come from just basically sales funnels. So we're advertising, different things like we buy houses. We're advertising homes for sale for the buyers. We're advertising various types of things to be able to gather people's information that are likely to be able to sell. So those are like the pillars, and it's much more than that, but I just want to keep it simple for today. We made a strategic decision about 2 months ago to add on iSpeedtoLead because what we realized was that we were sort of coming to a cap of like, we're not getting any new business. It's like, okay, well, what are the things that we can do to be able to add business on? I had a lunch about 2.5 months ago with an investor. He owns an incredible, huge, like they've invested in billions of dollars of real estate, billions. And I asked him, I said, what's your number one lead source? And he told me iSpeedtoLead. I'd never heard of iSpeedtoLead. And I said, okay, well, let me check it out. And that's the reason why we decided to add this as a pillar to the business.
Yeah, let's just talk about that right away. So what's been your results so far?
I have already, so again, this has been 6 weeks in. I have already done one closing. I grossed $6,600 from that closing. I have a 1.5 million. Now, this is not as an investor. This is as a real estate broker.
Mm-hmm.
I have, and that 6,600 was a seller who's going to also be a buyer. Okay. So we're currently working with them as a buyer. And so you can add on to that 6,600, probably another estimated 10,000. All right. So that's one that's already closed. And then the buy side, we're in the works. A second one, and this is sad. I'm grateful and sad simultaneously, but I got a bad phone call yesterday. I listed a $1.5 million farm that went on the market 2 days ago. The sad part is that one of the sellers passed away 2 days ago also. So that's the sad part of it, really sad. But they're older, and so now that's as a real estate agent, $1.5 million, and take 3% of that, and you can do the math. We also have a pipeline right now of probably, I'm counting it up right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 different people that we've talked to that are in a serious conversation about selling their property. Some of those may be investments, either for myself or one of my investment partners. By the way, if you're an investor in Virginia or Maryland and you're listening to this and you're looking for a great agent, hit me up. I'd love to be able to bring you deals and be a resource for you. Some of those may be investments that I do for myself. Some of those may be investments that I get to another person, whatever the case may be. We've invested $5,000 into the iSpeedtoLeads to this point. Okay. So if you think about that, a $5,000 investment, that's a big investment. We've already closed 6,600, so we're $1,600 ahead. Well, that investment sort of sucks. Like, I don't like that. I don't want to put $5,000 and risk it for $1,600, right? But $5,000 into, you've already covered the cost of that. And with that same client, there's probably going to be another 10,000. And then you've got another 40,000 or so from a listing that I have going on. And then you've got another 17 opportunities that would be anywhere from 6,000 to 15,000 each. Now I don't want to say this. I don't want to create this as my reality. In the past, when I've had 17 hot leads, I on average would close about 50% of them. All right. So let's just say, call it 8. All right. So if you could sit there and say predictable income in the pipeline, you're looking at, conservatively 8 times 8 would be, what's that? 64,000 conservatively. And it's probably going to be much more than that. Now, does $5,000 look like a good investment to make 64 plus what we've already closed? Call it $70,000. I'll do that all day long.
You use all different resources.
Sure.
So is there something particular that stand out as good on iSpeedtoLeads or other lead sources you got?
Well, with iSpeedtoLead, they're pretty simple leads. I mean, it's they are putting in, I have a need and I want to sell. Now, what I found is like the types of, and I don't know, like I'm still sort of because I'm relatively new to this, right? But I'm still processing like, okay, what does this mean? So what I'm getting is a lot of old people. That's one of the leads I'm getting. And then I'm also getting, and so I'm also getting a lot of people that are not serious. So I'm getting both of those. And then I'm getting, like a third piece, which is not old and they are serious. So let's talk about those old people. So I've got in my pipeline right now, including the ones that I have listed, I probably have, I would say maybe half of those people are 75 years plus. Why would that be a majority or, a large part of the leads? I don't know. Okay. And as I go through this, I'm intending to discover why, because that may help me to have a better approach. But the phone calls are so simple to make. It's just simply, hey, I see that you had, requested some information about 123 Main Street. I'm just curious. Do you want to sell? Like, that's the entry point. Then at that point, you sit there and say, what lane are we going down? Are we going down the investor lane, or are we going down the brokerage lane? So to be able to identify that, say, well, I don't know, if you know how I can be able to help you, but there's two ways I can help you. So if you're looking for a check in your bank account next Thursday, 1 week from today, I can have that check in your bank account and we're done with this and you have no hassle with it. Or if you're looking for the most amount of money in your bank account, it's going to take us, call it 45 to 90 days in that ballpark. I can help you with that as well. Are you most interested in the most amount of money or a quick, easy sale and you're going to make less money? Depending on that conversation, then I know which lane to bring them down. And then the next thing I'm going to say after that is just simply tell me more. So tell me more. And now I start to be able to convert them. And then at some point I'll say, it sounds like I can help you. I wouldn't mind doing this. I wouldn't mind setting up a time, come and take a look at the property, and I can give you some really great information so you know exactly what a plan would be to be able to get this done, to be able to achieve your goal. Would that be valuable to you? Now, listen to the way I'm asking the question, right? I wouldn't mind. I'm doing you a favor. Would it be valuable for you for us to meet? Okay, so the way that I'm asking the question is designed to be able to make it like I'm the resource. I am the service provider. I'm the expert. And then using the concept of teach to sell to be able to then communicate with them effectively on what their options are. And that's the framework of the phone call with iSpeedtoLead. Like, it's simple. It really is. It is like the simplest call I can make. That's so much easier than calling an expired listing that has 17. I just took a listing 2 days ago that was expired. I didn't get it expired. Okay. It was a friend of mine. She made a mistake and chose another agent. And then she came to her good senses and gave me a call. Okay. And so, but it expired like sort of in between there for 2 days before I met with her. And she gives me a call the day after it expired. This was a different agent. She's like, oh my God, Dan, I can't believe all these people. I was like, don't worry about it. Just ignore them. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll get this started. Okay. And I met with her and boom, it's done. Or at least it's listed. It's not on the market yet. But either way, the iSpeedtoLeads are so much easier than those expired, or other types of things, or doing an open house that takes hours and hours and hours to get ready for. It's just a simple, it's simple.
Okay. No, this is, did you have a chance to ask any refunds on our platform or not yet?
I'm not sure. Maybe. I don't know. The reason why I don't know is because it would be, I really focus my activity on my 5 money-making things. And I go through this in the book as well, which is to lead generate, convert the leads to meet with you, attend the meetings to get hired, negotiation, practice your scripts and role play. We call that CPI time, consistent, predictable income time. Okay. So I focus my energy on those 5 things. Administratively, I have somebody else within my organization that focuses on that. If I call and is, the lead is not a worthy lead, or, it's not a valid lead, or whatever the case may be, somebody would make that request. And I'm sure that that's happened. It's not in my, my awareness.
Right now, we have way more investors than agents on our platform. So partially because we don't that aggressive advertise. Most of our success stories actually coming from investors too. Even though recently, we got you right now. We had Chris Craddock just recently.
Chris, a friend of mine,
just shared a great experience too. Chris Ball, he's the part of Real, and Chevy. So we had some of those testimonials. But why would you say agents would be hesitant using such platforms? Is that because there are just way more ways maybe for agents to get leads and maybe not paying for them, or is there anything else is there?
The reason why I would say that real estate agents are less inclined is because most people who get the real estate license, I'm just be transparent with you, are looking, they think it's easy money, a lot of money, and they don't recognize what it takes to be able to be successful. Now, that's the majority of the people that get their real estate license. Then on top of that, you have some people who are really skilled at sales. And those that are really skilled at sales, which is a small majority, call it 80% are just never going to succeed. 15% are really skilled at sales. And then 5% are, like Chris Craddock, are skilled at business ownership, business development. Okay. So I think that this takes somebody to recognize, because like I said, it's, I put $5,000 into it. That's a freaking boatload of money. Okay. So that could be an objection right there. If you go back into, if you don't have belief in yourself, are you going to believe in yourself and bet on yourself to be able to invest into it? Probably not. So unfortunately, you got a majority of people that just aren't just equipped to realize that this is a freaking no-brainer, right? It really is, but you've got to be able to understand that. And if you comment on like the difference between an agent or an investor, the reality of it is I think every single agent should be an investor. Okay. So when I'm approaching this, I'm looking at this from my investor lens, because I mentioned to you before, when I was young, in the early 2000s, I invested in real estate, but it was like 1 to 3 deals a year. Today, I'm much more actively investing in real estate. Okay. Now, the only reason why I would broker something rather than give it to one of my investors is because I may not have the time. Okay. And I recognize that, every time that you say yes to something, you are infinitely saying no to every other opportunity. It may make better sense for me to be able to find a listing, to know that I've got a pool of investors. So I'm going to get paid on the listing. I'm going to get paid on the buyer. And then that buyer is going to relist it with me. And that's 3 transactions. So with 3 transactions, without me getting involved in ownership with zero risk, I'll make almost as much money as the investor. And while the investor is taking 3 months or so to get the property into condition to flip it, I've already been able to move on to the next and the next and the next. And so it's just taking a strategic decision of, do I approach this as an investor? Do I approach this as a buyer? Do I approach this as a real estate agent? And it's all just situational. It depends. But my investor hat is almost always on first, because if it's a deal that's so damn good, I'm going to do it myself.
I think we're going to the finish line now. We're going to have Dan back. He'll actually do a coaching call for our audience. So guys, make sure to join Speed to Leaders, where we're going to have Dan talking more about some principles he covers in the book, overall his experience and his insights. We're going to see him on iSpeed Arena. So excited to have that. But before I let you go, my common question, what would you say the top 3 mistakes new investors do? Or maybe existing investors or agents, like top 3 mistakes?
I would say not treating it like a business, whether it's an investor or a real estate broker. That's number 1. And so like as an investor, you've got to be able to like from 2000 to 2007, I was, a part-time investor, but I still had bandit signs up. I still had lead generation. It wasn't as developed as, nearly as developed as this day, but I was taking effort to be able to say, where can I find my business? Okay. So it goes back into the 4 pillars. Number 1 is believe in yourself, right? So what's the mistake is not believing in yourself. Number 2 is now I got to go find business. If you're not finding business, and I'm going to give you a very simple, write this down, a very simple framework, 1 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, go find business. That's it. 1 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, go find business. If you're not doing that, that's not a mistake. That is a cluster F. Like it is like I don't have a word to describe how detrimental that your business will be if you're not spending 1 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Now you may say to me, but Dan, what if I spend every Monday and I work 8 hours every Monday finding business and then the rest of the week I take off? Great, that's fine. But guess what? You're going to have sporadic income. It's the consistency. Consistency beats talent every day of the week. You mentioned to me before, you're like, well, what if what if you're afraid to make the call? Or what if you don't feel like you have the experience to believe in yourself? Great. Do it anyways. 1 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. And where do you think that your business will be, call it 2 months from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now? Just simply do the work.
Well, the other 2.
Well, that goes back into the building the organization and the leadership, right? So you need to have the support around you, right? So far too many people go, and whether this be an investor or a salesperson, they don't have the support. They end up focusing on everything that's not making the money. I've seen with real estate agents, they go and they're like, hey, I'm going to a Canva class a day. I'm like, that's stupid. I say that with love, right? That's my inside voice. Sure. I just let my inside voice slip out, right? Because here's the thing. You can go and know Canva. That's one of the million things that you can know how to do. Is important? Sure. I use Canva, but I've never logged into Canva. I've got a virtual assistant that uses Canva for me. Okay. And then you may say, well, I don't have the resources to hire a virtual assistant. Well, I'm going to tell you, on your next closing, take 10% of that and invest it into yourself, invest it into your business. Okay. And if you don't know how to hire, get the book and I'll show you how to hire, how to attract the right people. All right. So that's the second mistake, is not getting the support that you need around you. And the third mistake is then not, for those that investors and real estate agents that do get the support around them, they then don't recognize that their job is then to lead that person so that that person knows how to think so that they can get what they want. Okay. And so then as a leader, they lack the ability. So there's really, there's four components to this: is belief, lead generation, organization building, and leadership. And they go in that order. Okay. So I'll give you four. It's lacking one of those four in that order. And, and once you conquer each of those four, then you're able to then have consistent, predictable income and no broke months.
It just popped into my mind. So connections kind of matter, especially when you try to get, maybe extra acquisition person. I see it all the time. Somebody has money, another person don't, but he can make calls. So they kind of pair up and do calls together and split the money. Do you think, is that fair to say that being a part of some larger brokerage like, Keller Williams or EXP has some benefits, or it kind of doesn't matter? Do you guys interact? Is it easy to find new connections there, or like kind of doesn't matter?
Here's what I would tell a real estate agent. Find out first before you even talk about, and here's the mistake that they make. They go to the brokerage like you're my magic pill, and you're going to help me achieve my goals. But they don't take the time to, before they go and figure that out, to say, what are my goals? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What type of relationships do I need to be able to achieve those goals? Right? You have to be introspective first. What are my weaknesses? What do I suck at doing? And then once you understand that, then you could go out and shop brokerages. Now, the biggest mistake I see when real estate agents shop brokerages, they ask the question of, what's my split? What the question they should be asking instead is, that's the second question. The first question is, what's my value? So if I know that here's my weaknesses, and I know that here's my goals, and I know I'm introspective, I know my strengths and all that, then I go to the brokerage and I say, Mr. or Mr. Brokerage, how will you help me achieve these goals? Now, depending on the answer to that question, now you ask the last question. Because if you feel having that conversation with that broker is such that, man, I'm going to help you achieve those goals, here's how I'm going to help do that, and you're like, man, that's freaking awesome. How much are you going to charge me? What's my investment of you helping me achieve my goals? Okay. You see how that's very different than what's my split? I'm still understanding what my investment is, but I'm not treating it like a split. I'm treating it like 99% of agents, that's the only thing they care about. But they don't care about how's a brokerage going to help them, how a relationship is going to help them, and they don't even have an awareness of what they need. All right. So I say you have to do it in that order. Then to answer your question, which is, does it matter which brokerage that you're with? Yeah, but it is not my right to tell you who you should be in business with, because I don't know who you are, and I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what your strengths are. I don't know what your weaknesses are. I don't know anything about you. You know about you. So you take the time to determine who you are, what are your goals, what are your aspirations, and who can help me get there, and what makes a good financial investment to do so.
Why do you think most agents just focused on the split? Is that because brokerage is not advertising enough, how much value they can bring, or? No,
it's I already answered that question. It was embedded in the answer of why did most agents not, see the value of using a company like iSpeedtoLead? It's because 80% of them are never going to succeed. They don't have the desire to actually be introspective, to actually go through and be a little bit more thoughtful and mindful about the way they're going to approach this. Okay, so you have 80% right there out the door, where the only thing that that matters is how much, what's my split, and I think it's just because they don't have the ability, again, to think like a Chris Craddock, who you mentioned before, the CEO of Redux Group. It doesn't matter who you are or what position you're in. I'm giving you 4 steps. Believe in yourself, go find business, go build an organization around you, and then go learn how to lead. All right. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're at. You can be successful.
When you talk about goals and value and trainings and maybe some support system, my understanding is there is some support system that is a part of XP, and there is obviously training system, training program if they become part of your team, correct? Is that how it works?
Absolutely. And then that would be like the second, the second part of the conversation, right? So it goes back into, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you need? Now let me go talk to Dan. How can Dan help me? Now, I'm going to give you 5 days of training. I'm going to give you accountability. I'm going to give you resources. I'm going to give you leads. I'm going to give you the client care. I'm going to give you the support. So you do 5 things. There's a million things that you need to do, but I only want you to do 5. Lead generate, convert the leads to meet with you, go on appointments to get hired and show homes, negotiate, practice your script and role play. That's it. That's it. That's all I want you to do. Every single thing else we'll handle for you. Okay. So that's the second piece. If that aligns with the agent, with their strengths, their desires, etc., great. Let's rock and roll. If it doesn't, hit me up anyways. I can refer you to somebody else.
Okay, and you mentioned also that every agent should kind of be investor or think like investor. I noticed your case. I also interviewed Chris Ball. I'm not sure what's Chris's Craddock story, but you guys both started as investors initially, and after that you got a license. What would you say, what the advice, how to become investor for people who started being an agent first? Like, is there some differences with that, or how do they need to?
Yeah. So
There are some scripts and adjustments they need to do, but is there like more details you can talk a little bit more about that?
If you're an agent, you should be just thinking like every single listing that you go on, you're thinking, is this a purchase for me? All right. And there will be purchases in there. There'll be few and far in between. This room that I'm standing in right now, this is my basement office. This house was a listing appointment of mine. I went on the listing appointment. Over to this area to my left, you're right, is 15 acres. Okay. 15, and 5 of which I own. And it goes down a rolling hill and comes up, and it's a beautiful, you can see horses out there. It's incredible. Now, get this. I live in Northern Virginia. So equate what I just described to you as if you lived in New York, or you lived in Los Angeles or San Francisco or whatever major city is. Okay. Like, this is an urban area, and I have a small pocket in this urban area that's where I live. Well, there's 2 things I want to mention about that. Number one, and I talk about this in Teach to Sell, is how I visualize this to happen. Okay. So I tell the story of how I created this to be able to purchase this beautiful home. Secondly, in a congested area, like, I visualize owning 5 acres. I visualized it. All right. There's like freaking 2 pockets in Northern Virginia where they even have 5-acre lots. Okay. So first of all, I visualized it. Secondly, when I got to the listing, I took the listing as I'm supposed to. And when I came to the house, it had no driveway because the previous owners ran out of money for the driveway. It had boarded up windows. It had dog shit. I knew I'd get a curse word in there some way or another. It had dog feces and urine throughout the entire house. Okay. It literally had lights coming in, falling from the ceiling. It was hideous. The lawn hadn't been mowed in years. It wasn't a lawn. It was a jungle or woods, right? Like, it was horrific. I take the listing. I'm driving away. I was training an agent that day. His name was Oscar. I looked at Oscar. I said, Oscar, I don't know how the hell we're going to sell this. And Oscar knew about my visualizations, because not only was I visualizing it, but I was throwing it out there to the world. It's like I'm throwing out to the world. I'm going to help 1 million people, salespeople, entrepreneurs, and small business owners to know how to get consistent, predictable income. Okay. Like, I'm throwing that out there to the world. So I was doing that at the time. And Oscar's like, Dan, that's your home. And I was like, huh. And he was right. It's like this horrific piece of property that is in a beautiful neighborhood that can be what I was visualizing. That was 10 years ago. And today it is what I visualized. So go back into as an agent. Well, I bought my own home. Well, I've also done that with flips. I've also done that with wholesales. I've also done that with other properties, right? But as an agent, the first thing you should be considering is, should I buy this property? Now, the biggest hesitation on that, the biggest objection is, I don't have the money. Yuri already addressed that when you talked about relationships with, if you find a deal, I promise you the money will come. Anybody that's listening to this right now, if you find a deal, hit me up. I'll make sure that you can do that deal if it's a deal. Okay. You find a deal, the money will come. So as an agent, again, first thought is this my, and the majority of them is not going to be an investment, right? Like, from that technique I just shared with you, I probably do 1 to 3 a year where I end up, doing something of a purchase myself. But now we're doing many, many more than that, with our investor clients. And that's the way I would advise for an agent to think.
No, it's been great to see you. Excited to see you making some calls on Friday on Arena. So thank you for bringing some heat up. I already told Ashley that you told that you'll kick your ass. So that's so
I got to find out who Ashley is. I'm sorry, Ashley. I love you to death. I look forward to meeting you.
So no, we're looking forward to seeing you more on one of our coaching sessions. Make sure to get Dan's book in our description. Connect with him. What's the best way to connect with you? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? Is it what's the best way?
Yeah. So teachtosellbook.com, teachtosellbook.com. If you're listening to this and you don't have access to the description, teachtosellbook.com. And the best way to just Google my name, Dan Rochon, Rochon, and hit me up on any social. I'll respond personally.
Awesome. It's been great to see you. Looking forward for you to close more deals with iSpeedtoLead. Good luck to your book. I guess we'll talk more because it's publishing when on March. So we have some time till March to have some fun.
All right, Yuri. God bless you.
God bless you too. Take care.